Hello everyone, and welcome to my channel. If you're a returning viewer, thank you so much for coming back. And if you're new, I'm Lydia, and this is Vintage Nectarines. I'm going to be reading the Hazel Wood for my second Freaky Friday fiction video, and I would love for you to come along with me. I've been told it's a spooky, dark fairy tale, and I'm so excited to go on an adventure with our main character, Alice. So join me, and let's go on a super fun fairy tale adventure. "17-year-old Alice Proserpine and her mother have spent most of Alice's life on the road, always a step ahead of the uncanny bad luck biting at their heels. But when Alice's grandmother, the reclusive author of a book of pitch-dark fairy tales, dies alone on her estate, the Hazelwood, Alice learns how bad her luck can really get. Her mother is stolen away by a figure who claims to come from the cruel supernatural world where her grandmother's stories are set. Alice's only lead is the message her mother left behind: stay away from the Hazelwood." And both of my kids are off for their classes, so I'm gonna sit here and read the Hazelwood. I am currently on chapter 4, which is right about page like 31 or something, so I'm hoping that for the next 3 hours I can just sit down and get some good reading in. It's funny because it's supposed to be really chilly and kind of cold today, which it is, but inside my car with all the windows up was really warm, so I rolled the windows down. But I actually might like walk around campus to read. We'll see. So I don't want to sit on the grass because I think the grass might be wet, but I might have to consider bringing a blanket next week because we'll be here every Thursday now. So, but anyway. To read 2 chapters in the last like 15 minutes, and our main character has kind of formed a friendship that I feel may kind of form into more of an attachment with a boy from her school named Ellery Finch. Can we just talk about how cool his name is? I like his name. And I also love the name of their school. So they go to Whitechapel, and Whitechapel is a very like murder mystery type name, given that the Whitechapel murders, of course, happened where Jack the Ripper was in Europe. So I love that her school is named Whitechapel, and I really kind of like this Ellery Finch character. So I'm kind of curious to see where their friendship / connection goes throughout the story. So the last 2 chapters were good, but we're gonna keep reading. I still have quite a bit of time until my son is out of his classes, and we have to drive to the other campus to meet my daughter. So I'm going back in. Okay, I have to read this passage. Need a lift? He looked at me from under the brim of what could only be described as a cabbie cap. New York cab drivers never actually said that. They said, "Where are you going?" in a robotic voice, and if they didn't like your answer, they shook their heads and sped away. "Nope," I said. "I'm good." "You sure?" His brown eyes were sly. "I don't think your ride is coming." Something about the way he said it set off alarm bells deep in the forested part of my mind, the part that tells you to walk down a particular street at night or to change subway cars when a certain kind of crazy gets on. I wasn't waiting for a ride. I lied. "Why don't you take one anyway?" I looked straight at him, his dark, narrow face and mocking eyes, and a feeling of vertigo swept from my face to my feet. I'd never met him, but I knew him. I couldn't remember why or from where. It was something about the way he spoke to me, like he knew me too, and we were having a conversation we'd had before. I stepped back, then kept stepping and turned and began running down the street, my bag hanging from my fingers and bouncing against my leg. An old woman wearing fur and pearly lipstick tried to scowl at me, but Botox took all of the mean out of it. I veered around a knot of tourists, stopped to photograph an enormous cupcake made to look like Cookie Monster. I hit the corner and almost kept going, but a double-decker bus whooshed past me so close it blew my hair back. My stomach lurched. I just love the way she describes like how she's feeling in this book. Yeah, so many good passages. Seriously, the writing is just so good, and with each chapter, I just find myself being more on the edge of my seat, and I have felt like that from the very beginning. My stomach broke into pieces and spun like a kaleidoscope. Dimly, I saw my hand reaching towards it, lifting it to my nose. Cheap ink and old paper. It felt hot, but my arms prickled with goosebumps as I ripped it open. The page inside was soft with use, folded in on itself. I had a sharp flare of déjà vu as I eased it open. It was a titled page I'd seen just once, years ago. Alice 3 times, it said in a dense script. Inked around it was a geode pattern that made me think of ice. There was a raw edge along one side where it had been ripped from the book. You guys, I'm only 8 chapters in now, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like what is gonna happen? Something happened in chapter 7 that was very like, okay, what's going on? Because it wasn't something I kind of expected. So I'm very curious. It has been a very good afternoon of reading, and each chapter just feels like it's flying off the page faster and faster because I am so invested and so curious as what's going to happen next. So I had come outside to listen to the Hazel Wood on audiobook and try and cut some stuff down in the yard, but a storm is coming. It's so windy. So I think I will have to go inside and find something to do while listening to the Hazel Wood, because I'm gonna light some candles because the storm is coming. as you can see, I am back in my car again. It is another Thursday. We have made it a whole week and I have yet to finish the book. Not for lack of enjoyment, because I'm actually really loving the story. I've just been so busy. But oh my gosh, something just happened that I was not at all expecting. And I'm really sad. I don't really know where to go with this story right now. I'm really enjoying parts of it. I've been getting little glimpses of the fairy tale stories that are woven in, and those are really interesting, but very dark and strange. Very Grimm's fairy tale-esque. And I have to also say, I definitely don't love some of the language in this book. Not that I'm opposed necessarily to language in books, but some of this just seems unnecessary. I think the author is trying to convey this like hard exterior to our main character, Alice. And so she's kind of just using her attitude and her language as a way to portray that, which you definitely get that sense. But part of me is just like, I don't feel like all of the swear words are necessary. But anyway, all of that to say, I'm really enjoying it. I am to chapter 20, which is so exciting. We're more than halfway done. So I'm really hoping to get a lot of it finished today while in the car. But I'm honestly just in a little bit of shock right now. Something happened that I was not at all expecting. I'm really sad. So I have to keep reading. Things appear to be one way in this book and then they change. So it could be that what I think just happened didn't actually happen, but we will see. So our main character has gone on quite a journey and it has been an interesting one to say the least. So I will keep you posted. Oh my gosh. I am now on chapter 24. So I've read 4 chapters. Oh my gosh. So the whole premise of our story is that our main character, Alice, and her mother, Ella, have been kind of running their whole life from place to place to place. And they constantly have this sense that darkness or bad luck is following them around. And as much as she tries, Alice, our main character, can never really piece together her life when she was little. She doesn't really remember it. And she kind of gets things in visions. Well, we just figured out why. Oh my gosh. Like I said, you think this story is one thing and then it goes a completely different direction. And I'm just, like, it makes so much sense now. I completely get it. I understand why they've always felt like bad luck was following them. Oh my gosh. You guys, if you are a fan of Grimm's fairy tales or fairy tales in general, or anything in that realm, you have to read this book. It is kind of dark, again, the language thing, but it is so fascinating how this story has been woven together and the pieces that are all falling into place. I'm just completely blown away. I have to message Amber right now because she's the one who encouraged me to read this book, and I have to tell her that I'm completely shocked by what just happened. I need someone to know. And I can't unfortunately tell you because it would give the story away and I don't want to do that. But I feel the need to talk about this. Good morning, everyone. Okay, today is the day we are going to finish the Hazel Wood. I'm going to make myself another cup of coffee and we are going to jump in and finally see if we can figure out what exactly is going on. Okay, so I have my coffee, I lit my candle, I have my amazing cozy fall blanket. I'm all snuggled up. I put on some beautiful, rainy, cozy autumn ambiance on the TV, and I'm going to finish this book. I'm on chapter 27, which is page 289, and there are only like 340 something pages, so I don't really have that much further to go, and I cannot wait to see how the story wraps up. When I talked to you guys last in the car yesterday, some things had just happened that completely caught me by surprise and blew me away. And I had a conversation with Amber because I'm like, okay, is this story going to wrap itself up, or am I gonna not be able to know what's going on until the second book? And she told me just to keep going and that most of my questions would be answered. Oh my goodness, you guys. Oh my goodness. So let's see what happens next. Go quiet, said the spinner, her whisper carrying back to me, and don't interfere. It was a good morning. The village we rode through was sleeping, but it was filled with wakeful things. I sucked in icicle air. Not yet. When the spinner moved away, the caravan had passed. Not yet, I said. What does that mean, not yet? It means the only way out is through the woods, through the story, through the pain. Did you think you'd get what you want for free? I fell back. Chasen, can you at least tell me where we're going? I told you. Once upon a time. Just before dawn, I heard the crackle of firelight among them and smelled smoke. Then came music, a wild, sad music that slipped away like a fading dream every time my mind tried to catch it. I slowed down to hear it, to try and place the instrument. Not an instrument, a voice, a sweeping voice with a bracing range that made even the trees go quiet. I tilted my head back to watch the sky. Chapter 29 has been my favorite passage of the entire book. I feel this passage so much. Maybe it's because I lost my mother, but I just feel this passage. The dark was vast and pendulous. It ripped from the edges of me. Everything was echo and pulse, float and stretch, sleep and wake, and a distant hunger in my hummingbird heart. Potential, a distant rage. I nipped at it like sugar water, then a whoosh and a retching in my core.
and the velvet dark ripped open. There was cold and terror and chilling white. The first thing I saw was a face, red cheeks and watery blue eyes. Not my mother's. I'd lived beneath her heartbeat, light and restless, for too long not to know this face didn't belong to that heart. The blue eyes raked over me, registering fear and something else. Satisfaction. Though I didn't have the words for that yet, two rough hands lifted and turned me.
That line that says, I'd lived beneath her heartbeat, light and restless, for too long not to know this face didn't belong to that heart. Yep. Feel that. I finished it. This book to me reminds me so much of a Grimm's Fairy Tales meets the TV show Once Upon a Time. It feels very much in that same vein of Once Upon a Time, where a book comes to life and the stories in it are more real than you think. But it's very Grimm's fairy tale in the sense that those fairy tales are not always the happy ending type, and they're darker, and their characters are much more complex and have different layers to them. I find myself torn between how I feel about the end. I'm pleasantly surprised by how the story wrapped up, but there is one part of it that leaves me feeling kind of sad. And a character played a bigger role than I realized until the very end, which now looking back at it makes total sense. And I just love that character even more now than I did in the very beginning. I'm very excited to read the second book. I'm curious to jump back into our main character Alice's world and see what happens in that second story. But this was very, very good. So thank you so much for hanging out with me while I read it. If you have not read this book, I definitely think you should if you are a fan of fairy tales. And if you have read it, please let me know in the comments below what you thought. And yeah, I'm a little, you know, when you finish a book and you kind of have that warm and cozy feeling, I kind of feel like that from this, which is interesting because that's not exactly what I thought I would have from this book. I thought, yeah, I don't know what I thought, honestly. I really enjoyed it. It has scary pieces, it has mystery, it has magic, it has whimsy, it has fairy tale, it has adventure. It has all those things. So anyway, I'll see you very soon. Bye.